So I just finished watching the Elimination Chamber, and I'm gonna give my review, my thoughts, just what I'm thinking and everything. Overall, I think it was an okay show. Uh, Definitely some glaring issues in my opinion. You might disagree, but I mean that's why we're here. So I'm just gonna go through the match card, the main card. I know that the women's tag title match was on the pre-show. I didn't watch the pre-show. I actually went to sleep and then had an alarm set to get up and watch the main card. I figured all the matches would be on the main card because some of the stuff ran a bit longer than I really expected it to. So they kicked off the main card with the women's elimination chamber match, and I feel like that match started really slow, but really began to pick up as it went on. It ended up being a very serviceable match, uh, I'd say really up until the fourth entrant got into the match, Raquel Rodriguez. It was a little slow. They definitely had Tiffany Stratton show out. She had an amazing showing, but unfortunately, she also ended up being the first eliminated, I'm pretty sure. And I think that sort of dragged, like, the action picked up in the second half of the match, but I also think that the way they did it and the way they scheduled it sort of drug the match down towards the end because I really thought the only two like real wild cards in the match were Tiffany Stratton and Raquel Rodriguez, and the way it worked out, like they were the first two gone. So pretty sure they were the first two gone. They were one of the first ones gone. And I really felt that took a lot of the excitement out of the match because at that point, if it wasn't obvious before the match started, it became very, very obvious that Becky Lynch was going to win. And I just, I don't know that that was the best decision in the world. People love Becky. She got a huge, huge reaction when she came in and made her entrance and everything else. She actually started the match, so she did the whole thing. Started at one, or what they call one, and actually won the whole thing. So I mean that's good, and it's another box ticked for her resume and everything. But she didn't really need it, so you know I guess it was all right. There was definitely some pretty cool spots in there. They like I said, they let Tiffany Stratton really show out. Raquel Rodriguez, she had some good showing too. But like I said, whenever they got eliminated, it really sort of just made it very obvious. And then right when the match at the very end really picked up, and you thought, oh hey, maybe they are gonna do something different. The match ended like that. Like a minute later, it was over. Right at the end of the match, Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan, and Becky Lynch did some excellent work, really excellent work. And, they had Liv and countering finishers and Bianca and Becky, and they're all going back and forth. And it's like, oh, wow. And like Liv was showing out, really, like really showing what she could do. And I'm like, oh, wow, they might actually have Liv win this. She's one of the fan favorites. And then just next thing you know, it's over because like she eliminates Bianca, and then turn around like the second she stands up, manhandle slam, it's over. So it came to a very abrupt ending, like just right there, just over, boom, done. And I didn't like that. I really wish that the match would have had a little bit more time to breathe at the end, and if they were going to let Liv Morgan do the stuff that she was just doing there at the end, why not let her have a good little 2-3 minutes one on one with Becky and everything instead of just having her do like all this incredible stuff and then it's just shut down? So, I mean, that was my issue with that match. But all in all, I mean, it was a decent match. The next match on the card, however, I think stole the show. I honestly think the best match on the whole card was the tag team title match. Those guys went out there, and what they put together was really, really memorable. Because I honestly think that the tag title match was the least predictable match on the card. Because we all, it's been general consensus, like, oh, we think they're going to hold those tag titles until WrestleMania. But I mean, the tag division hasn't really been a focal point. They hadn't just built it around the titles so much. The whole storyline with the Judgment Day, and R-Truth and everything else. It hasn't been built about the titles. It's been really just R-Truth being R-Truth. And the Judgment Day not liking it, And so you don't necessarily need the titles to, further that story. And also, like I said in my predictions video, I really hope that some point here soon they have the titles split up. So I was also thinking that there was a real possibility that that could have happened. So it was the least predictable match on the card. And the way these guys were working, some of the spots they pulled off and everything else, through the vast majority of the match, you really, really thought that the Judgment Day might lose. The New Catch Republic pulled off some incredible tag teamwork. They really did hit some, awesome tandem offense and whatnot. Like the double Tyler Driver was pretty sick. That could have told you, oh, wow, I think this is over. Or at one point they hit this, I think it's a new move that they do. It's like a tandem finisher. It's really cool. It was really cool. I also thought it could have been over there, but they really, really gave them a run for their money. Then Dominic Mysterio, man's a heat magnet. Like, I've never seen anybody get booed so much. I've been watching wrestling now for 15 years, and I have never seen anybody draw boos like that, to the point whenever, before the match, he was screaming into the mic, and you still couldn't hear him over how loud the boos were. I mean, that's honestly really, really impressive. I mean, I never thought I'd hear myself say that it's impressive for somebody to get booed, but it really is. Just, nobody's pulled that much heat. I think Dom's got a bright future ahead of him. He's a great heel, obviously, or he wouldn't be pulling boos like that, but here we are. So, all in all, wonderful match. Judgment Day retained the titles. Good for them. It was a great match. I think they're going to lose them at Mania. We'll just have to see. After that, we moved on to the Grayson Waller effect. And it was an okay segment. I mean, I really think that it was the turning point. I think that the first half of the show was better than the second half of the show by far. Because, like I said, the Women's Chamber match was okay. Tag title match, amazing. And then you had the Grayson Waller effect right in the middle. And there was some good storytelling there. So, I'll give it that. You had Austin Theory that was already out there. He talked some trash about Australia, and I was like, okay. As soon as he started doing that, I was thinking, okay, this is actually gonna, Grayson Waller and him are they're gonna split up tonight. And while that didn't completely happen, it's coming. It is coming. So he talks a little trash about Australia, and then he introduces Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller comes out, does a shoey with somebody in the crowd. It's some famous person. I'm not familiar with him, so I don't, sorry. But, he does that, gets in the ring, and Grayson Waller just has, he's so good on the mic, and he has a ton of charisma. Grayson Waller is, whenever he came in, it was like, oh, look, somebody to go with Austin Theory, what, and then he has surpassed Austin Theory in every way, in my opinion. Grayson Waller is an awesome act, and I hope he's going to be around for a long time. He's definitely got a bright future ahead of him as well. First, he brings out Seth Rollins, and then he brings out Cody Rhodes. And then at that point, it's just basically the baby faces cut some promos. Grayson is, he starts with Seth, and he's like, I didn't call you out here to ask you who you think is going to win the Chamber. He's like, who do you want to face at WrestleMania? And he was like, oh, I don't know who's going to win or anything like that, but I've got an announcement. And whenever he said that, I'm like, oh, he's medically cleared. He's like, I'm about to be medically cleared. Okay, cool. I mean, I'm glad he's getting healthy. Definitely glad he's getting healthy. It sucks that he got injured in the first place. But, to come out and say you've got like this huge major announcement, and it's that you're about to be medically cleared, but not that you are medically cleared. I guess that was a little deflating, but it was okay. Then so basically Seth was like, oh, I'm about to be medically cleared, so whoever wins the Chamber, you don't stand a chance. Alright, fine. Grayson Waller moves to Cody Rhodes, and he's like, we were about to get the greatest main event in WrestleMania history, and then you took that away from us. Does that not feel a little selfish and everything? And then Cody just kind of, he blows straight past the question in a sense, and then just cuts his own promo, and he's like, I've kind of got an announcement of my own and everything. He's like, I'm gonna make it official, The Rock, anytime, anywhere you want to go, I want you one-on-one. I'm free until the main event of WrestleMania, and I want you one-on-one. And the way they built this promo and this segment and everything, I'm sitting here at this point the whole time. I'm waiting for The Rock to come out, because I'm pretty sure The Rock was on some of the advertising and stuff for the Elimination Chamber. So I'm like, okay, Cody just laid out this challenge and everything else. He's throwing it all out there. And they build, and you literally got people hollering, tonight, everything else, the way they built it. It seemed like it was across the board. Everybody pretty well thought, oh, hey, The Rock's going to be here. We're going to get a Rock Cody match. And then it just never happened. So I really think the way they built that segment and cut those promos was weird. To, act like we were going to get a Cody Rock match, and then it just doesn't happen. But then Seth, he stands up and he's like, oh, it's never really one-on-one with the bloodline, so when The Rock finally does accept that challenge, I've got your back. I'll be right there to fight with you. So basically, Cody laid out the challenge to The Rock. Seth said, I got your back. They set up the tag match for Mania. That's been the big rumor ever since they went back to Cody versus Roman, is that it was going to be Rock and Roman versus Seth and Cody on night one. So they pretty well just might as well have just said that was confirmed, because it's basically what they did. It wasn't just planted the seeds. They more or less got that story kick-started. Then Austin Theory, Grayson Waller goes to say something to Austin Theory, literally lunges at him and snatches the mic out of his hand. And then goes on to do a bunch of imitations of The Rock and everything. And then Cody and Seth beat him up. And Grayson Waller watches. So that's what I was saying. They didn't completely separate from each other, but they're definitely getting ready to, because Grayson didn't back him up. And, I really thought they were completely going to do it. It just, between Austin Theory talking all the trash he did about Australia, and then turn around and snatching that away from Grayson Waller and trying to take the spotlight and everything, it just. I think they're going to have a match at Mania. Grayson Waller versus Austin Theory. I definitely think it's leading to that. And they heading on that track starting, right now. So, after that, we went to the men's chamber match. And I didn't like it. Wasn't the worst chamber in the world. Far from the best. I definitely think it's somewhere towards the middle. Because a lot of the action itself was good. A lot of the spots were really good. But, the chamber, I feel, has lost all integrity to some extent. I remember my first, not long after I started watching wrestling and everything, it was such a big deal when Shawn Michaels came up through that panel in the Elimination Chamber and cost The Undertaker the title to get that match at Mania. Ever since then, I think this is a problem with all of the cage-type matches in wrestling now, is that there's too much interference in them. So, we had a good match going, and then AJ Styles comes in and hits LA Knight with a chair a bunch of times because Bobby Lashley was taking forever to get out of the ring. So AJ Styles just runs through the front door with a chair and lays LA Knight out, knocks him out of the match. Because Drew McIntyre was there to get the pin. LA Knight was the second person eliminated. Arguably one of the biggest baby faces in the company right now. Super over. Got the biggest reaction coming into the match. And he was the second one eliminated. And they had Bobby Lashley in the match to not do very much. Bobby Lashley was the first one eliminated. And he didn't start the match, so he wasn't in the match for a very long amount of time, and then he was just gone. Another real quick elimination. It makes me wonder if they weren't going to do anything with Bobby Lashley, because they didn't set up any sort of story or anything like that. Bobby Lashley in this case was a placeholder. He filled a spot. That's all he did. He didn't do much in the match. He was responsible for the best spot in the match, arguably. Like one of the best chamber spots I think I've ever seen, and it sucks that it was in such a kind of a dull match. It was a double pod spot, and I thought it was so cool because you had Kevin Owens. He took him and threw him through one pod, and then turned around and immediately speared Logan Paul through another. So I don't know that there's been multiple people break through pods in the same match. There might have been. I might be missing something or not recalling something. But I think that's the first time it's ever happened just back to back real quick like that. Like straight through one, then turn around and right through another. So that was awesome. But then turn around, Bobby Lashley's eliminated. It makes me wonder why Bronson Reed couldn't have that spot. I know that's been a big topic of discussion the past couple of weeks, is why is Bronson Reed not in the chamber match? He seems to be one of the only Australian performers for the WWE that didn't get a spot on the show anywhere. Indy Hartwell got the pre-show match. Grayson Waller got to do his Grayson Waller effect, and then Rhea Ripley got the main event. Why couldn't Bronson Reed get a spot? Especially to fill a spot that didn't further a storyline at all. So, didn't like that. So, Bobby Lashley's out right away. Then turn around, LA Knight's gone. Stupid. So, then you're down to 4. You got Randy Orton. You got Drew McIntyre, Logan Paul, Kevin Owens. Okay, well, next thing you know, Kevin Owens just gets hit with an RKO and he's gone. Which is one of the few things that Randy did in this match, because I really, really, genuinely hope that Randy isn't legitimately hurt again. Right after Randy came out, I want to say it was Drew. Could have been Drew. Anyway, he went to do his draping DDT, and it got reversed. They ended up on the outside of the mat, of the ring, and he did the draping DDT out there. But as soon as he hit it, the rest of the match, Randy moved slow. He was holding his back. He genuinely looked to be in pain. He was holding his lower back the whole match and was moving really slow. So I really, really, genuinely hope he's not hurt legitimately again, because he just came back from missing 1.5 years over back issues. So that's got me worried. It really does. So Randy Orton, this huge big name, been a main eventer his whole career, and if it's because of a legitimate injury, I get it. I really do. But he didn't do much the whole match. He really didn't. I mean, if it's because of a legitimate injury, I get it. But if it was a work, then what was the point? Because Randy Orton spent, I'm telling you, 75% or more of his time out of his pod laying down in pain. Basically, he'd get up, hit a move, and then lay down for 2 or 3 minutes, and then get up, hit a move, and do it again. And that was like his chamber. So, like, he gets up, hits Kevin Owens with the RKO, pins him, and then disappears for a while. So now we're down to Logan Paul, Drew McIntyre, and Randy Orton. So Logan Paul, they go on for a few minutes. Logan Paul pulls the brass knuckles out. Everybody knew it was going to happen. But he never gets a chance to use them because, again, RKO out of nowhere. 1, 2, 3, he's gone. Alright, Logan Paul's gone. I figured he was, because I thought him and Kevin Owens were going to feud into Mania. That was my thoughts going into this show. Or that he was going to start a feud with LA Knight. But after what happened with AJ Styles, LA Knight and AJ Styles, that is, in my opinion, definitely leading to a match at WrestleMania. There's no way it's not. It could be a triple threat with Logan for the United States title, but there's no way that there's no way that LA Knight and AJ Styles are not ending up in a match at Mania. So you're like, okay, Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre. You're like, it's not the most predictable thing in the world, but you could see it going either way, really, because, like, you can't bet against Randy Orton. You just can't. I don't think the last time he won the Rumble, I don't think anybody was just thinking, oh, Randy Orton's going to win this, but he did it, because you can't bet against him. And at one point, they really made you believe that, because when it looked like he was done, and I mean legitimately done, and this is what's making me think the back thing might have been a work, but I don't know if it was worth it if it was just for this one spot. Drew McIntyre is set up for the Claymore, and you're like, okay, Randy's going to stand up, and he collapses. He literally just cannot do it. He's holding his back. He's writhing in pain. It's bad. And I'm worried because the referee is selling this incredibly. The referee looks super concerned. I'm like, oh, Randy's seriously hurt and trying to finish this match with his hurt back. He literally just can't go on anymore. Well, Drew McIntyre walks over to him, and then out of nowhere, RKO. Just took me completely by surprise. So you're like, oh, Randy's gonna do it. Randy's actually gonna win. They surprised us all. They're gonna let Randy go to WrestleMania again. And then Logan Paul comes back into the match. Well, this is several minutes after he's been eliminated. And decks Randy square in the face with those brass knuckles. And Drew wins. So that's definitely not a direction that I thought we were going. Should the Randy Orton injury thing be a work, be an angle. It looks like we're going to get Logan Paul and Randy Orton for the United States Championship at WrestleMania. Definitely not what I was expecting. If you go off what all the rumors and stuff has been and what happened in the chamber match, I could maybe see it being even a fatal four-way. You know, hold on, I think I know what they're doing. Could be a ladder match. Because KO has been in that story, having issues with Logan. Now Randy's going to have issues with Logan. LA Knight and AJ Styles have issues with each other and whatnot. Could be a ladder match. You know, I don't know what they're going to do going into WrestleMania with the United States Championship because there's a few different directions they could go. We'll just have to see how things play out on TV over the next few weeks. But ladder match, I could see happening. But anyway, the match, just the way, again, it had some cool moments. Wasn't anything special. And then, honestly, what I believe was the worst match of the night was the main event. Rhea Ripley and Nia Jax. In my honest opinion, the match was terrible. Honestly. It had one cool spot that could have been a lot cooler, and that was about it. So, they come out, obviously, the crowd that's there is really excited for Rhea, but something I started to notice when they were starting to pan around and show the crowd and everything is that a lot of people at the start of the main event had already started to leave. And I don't know if it's just that the show was really bad or if they didn't care about Rhea as much as everybody thought they were going to, but the people that were there were ecstatic for Rhea. You know, it was great. So, you know, she comes out, you think Rhea, oh, she's been presented as such this, you know, just dominant champion and everything. And the match was so one-sided and not in the way that you think. Nia Jax beat the tar out of Rhea Ripley that whole match. The way they presented this match and the way it ended, to me, it seems like Rhea got lucky. That's the way it looks. That's the way it feels. And with Rhea being this dominant force that she's been and everything else, should have got a good, dominant win. Instead, she got tossed around and just beat up the whole time. She had a really, really cool, interesting flurry to start the match. The first 30 seconds or so, awesome. Rhea went out there, was whooping ass. Then Nia turned around and just beat the tar out of her for the next vast majority of the match. You know, even having Nia put Rhea through the announce table and everything else, you know, Nia she beat the crud out of her. And I think that was a terrible, terrible way to present this, because you've had Rhea, who hasn't been pinned in 2 years. Believe me, they kept talking about that. And has been such a dominant force in the women's division for over a year now. And they presented Nia as the obstacle in the match, not Rhea. The way the match should have been presented is Nia wants the championship. Beating Rhea is what she's got to do to get there. And that beating Rhea is going to be a challenge because Rhea has been so good. And it's not how they did it. Not even close. They did it the exact opposite. Like, Rhea was the one that had something to prove, or that Rhea was the underdog. But she should have never been presented that way, but she was. So basically, Rhea gets the tar beat out of her for 90% of the match. And then they do this spot where Nia decides that she's going to go to the top rope. And, Rhea manages to get up there and she hits her with a superplex, which was the best spot in the match. It was awesome. But my issue with it is that was the turning point in the match. That's what happened that made Rhea win, was hitting that superplex. But the only reason she was even in the position to hit that superplex is because Nia chose to climb to the top rope. So the only one just huge move of offense that Rhea got in is because Nia Jax set it up. And while it was a cool spot, I think it could have been even cooler. I think if you're going to set Nia Jax up for a superplex, you do the ring collapse spot. And that would have made the match a lot better, in my opinion, just having that one spot go the extra mile. But they didn't do it. It was a superplex on Nia. I was like, okay, cool. Nia climbed to the top rope. She hit the superplex, cool. And then after the superplex, Rhea hits her with a riptide. Again, super impressive. Great feat of strength. Not taking that away from Rhea at all. But basically, she has a little flurry at the beginning of the match, a smaller, less impressive flurry right in the middle. Other than that, she's getting her butt beat, and then Nia Jax puts herself in a vulnerable position, gets superplex, riptide, match over. At one point, Nia is, selling like she's been through it, but because of the way the match had been built, that's not how it felt to me. It didn't feel like Nia had been through it and been through a tough fight. It felt like Nia was tired because she had just done too much. Because she had just been running over Rhea the whole match. I don't think it was constructed well. I think it had the right outcome with Rhea winning, but it should have been a much more competitive match. Like, you don't have Rhea squash Nia. You don't have that happen. But it could have been a much more competitive match with both of them getting in big moves of offense, and then just Rhea wins. Not Rhea hits a big lucky spot and then hits a riptide and wins. Because now Nia, in a sense, to me, looks weak. Because, yeah, she ran roughshod over the whole match, still couldn't put somebody away, and then gets hit with two big moves and it's over. So I just don't think the match was built very well. And I think that's kind of the case with the vast majority of the matches. That they had some good moments and were okay, but could have been much, much better. The tag match, awesome from start to finish. Overall, if I had to give a grade to the show as a whole, all the segments put together, I'd give it a C. That's using regular grading stuff, A, B, C, D, E, F, or A, B, C, D, F. So, I'd give it a C. It was a very mid-tier show. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't that great. It wasn't very good. It was okay. So, with that being said, going through my predictions, I predicted Becky. I predicted the Judgment Day. Predicted Rhea. So, 3 out of the 4 matches I'll take. Again, I didn't watch the pre-show, so I don't know how that turned out. I know I said something about that tag title match, so it could be 3 out of 5. So, I'll take that, I think that kind of helped drag the show down a little bit, is the fact that it was too predictable. I remember stating in my predictions video, Drew has a very good chance of doing that. I wouldn't be surprised if Drew won. But I went for LA Knight thinking that WWE was going to swerve us somewhere and give us an outcome that we weren't predicting. And I was just wrong about that. They didn't even try. They just went with the straight predictable thing. We're building to WrestleMania. I guess that's the biggest problem is at the end of the day, Elimination Chamber felt like a pointless stop on the way to WrestleMania, because that's what they've really been building to this whole time. So I wish they'd have made it a little less predictable. I wish they'd have structured the matches a little better. With that being said, like, hats off to all the performers and everything. Every time they go out there, they are putting their bodies on the line, and they are doing it to entertain us. So big thank you to them. So that being said, that's my review and the results of the Elimination Chamber. I hope you enjoyed.